Name is Julie Robertson. I'm from Inwood, West Virginia, and my daughter Josie Robertson was diagnosed with apraxia at the age 2.5.
My name is Rachel Nestor West, and I live in Bowie, Maryland. I'm a mother of three children. I have two boys and one girl. My youngest son, Marcus, who is 6 years old, was diagnosed with apraxia in June of 2018. So it's been an interesting journey. I am part of a parent member of the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force for Apraxia Kids. We meet monthly to, address the issues and concerns of, spreading awareness, promoting education and support to the minority community, all communities, so that we are sensitive to the diversity and inclusion piece when it comes to apraxia kids. Just diversify that platform and get the word out and educate as many communities across, not only nationwide, the states, but across the world when it comes to apraxia kids.
Started in our local county with the Birth of Three program, and her speech pathologist that came to our house then started recognizing it at the age about 2.5 when we started recognizing things like that. So we actually hooked up with an ENT at University of Virginia first, and he recognized it more than anything. The ENT did with the speech pathologist from our Birth of Three program. Before we originally started speech after the Birth of Three program, she had her adenoids and tonsils taken out at UVA, and then seeing if that would correct her speech, which it did not. So then that's when we put along and we got diagnosed with apraxia through the University of Virginia. More or less, she was saying words, but she wasn't getting them all out. It was taking her pauses in between her words, where she was trying to think what she was going to say, but she just couldn't form her mouth the right way. Even eating foods, like she still doesn't eat right. Like she's be 7 in July and she's still only 35 pounds. She doesn't eat because she doesn't, her mouth, it takes a while for her to eat because her mouth is so sore. She's always wanting to eat soft things, or you have to cut everything up really hard, easy for her to eat. So it makes it very challenging to feed her too. Still, she's very picky. She likes Lunchables all the time and things like that. And we also tried to get her diagnosed with oropraxia because of her mouth issues, but they said because she would eat like Laffy Taffy and would eat it in the time frame, they wouldn't diagnose her with that.
My son received his official diagnosis for childhood apraxia of speech in June of 2018. He was around the age of, I want to say between 3.5 years old. And the way we came about his diagnosis is he is the third of three children that we have. So with the other two children, I was able to gauge milestones, especially, in their speech as they developed. And when Marcus was around 1, he was still doing kind of the baby talk. So I said, oh, he's just taking his time to speak. Then 2 years old, he was still in the baby talk stage. It was hard to understand what he was saying, to communicate. It was just baby talk. We couldn't understand what was going on with him. And then by 3, and I knew with my previous children, at 1, they were saying mine, no, up, down, all the typical things that babies would say around that time. So by the time he was 3 years old, my husband and I noticed he's still not talking. It's still baby talk. It's still gibberish. It's hard for us to understand. So at that point, we had decided that we needed to take him somewhere to get assessed. So in addition to his pediatrician, we went through our county and we did our county's infant and toddler program. So through that program, we did assessments for him, and it was determined that he did have like a developmental delay, that there were some issues, and he was below average in certain areas of where he should be at the age that he was at. So after doing that, they suggested that he get with an SLP, and a special educator would come to our home to work with him and help him develop with his, with his speech along the way. The disappointing part in that is that, based on the testing that the county had done, it seemed like, he needed a lot of help in a lot of areas. And our county only afforded us 2 hours a month of services from them. So my husband and I, we knew that that wasn't going to be enough to get him to where he needed to be in terms of his speech. So we started to do, or decided to do, additional assessments with him. And we took him to National Children's Center in Washington, D.C., because we live in Maryland. And we took him there, met with a clinician, and they did an assessment with him. And, keeping in mind that he's 3.5 years old, he's still a little person. He's in a new environment, around strangers, things of that nature. So the clinician did a series of testings with him, asked him different questions, gave him different commands to do this, to do that. He's 3, he doesn't know you. So it's not to say that he can't do it. It's just that, he wasn't comfortable, I guess. So he didn't, do everything that she asked him to do. So after an hour and a half of doing the testing and waiting, a couple of weeks, a report was issued to us. It was about a 32-page report. And she assessed that he was on the autism spectrum. She determined that he could possibly be autistic. To me, as the mother, knowing my son, knowing my child, I was not in agreement with that assessment. I did not feel that my son displayed characteristics of autism. I wasn't in agreement with the report. I was actually disappointed. I was distraught. I was sad, to think that, someone is telling me that my child could possibly be autistic. But me as his mother, I knew that it just didn't fit. I think it was something else, and she couldn't figure out what it was, and I didn't want to be in the position, nor my son, where he's labeled, especially, or misdiagnosed. That's the big thing. Just misdiagnosed, because I knew that wasn't the type of behavior or the characteristics that he was displaying. It was an issue of communication. So fast forward, to that, I was actually talking to one of my coworkers at work one day, because, the diagnosis was so new, and I was just like, what do we do? Like, I'm having these conversations with my husband. How are we going to help? We're like, what can we do? The county's only offering us 2 hours a month. That's not going to do anything. Like, we have to do more. So I was talking to one of my coworkers, and she told me a story about a friend of hers who was actually kind of going through the same thing that I was going through. Like, her son was probably around the same age. I can't remember exactly, but he was having issues with his speech as well. So she told me of a place that she was sending her son to get services. And it was in our area. I said, okay, give me the name. Like, let me call them and try to get him help. So that's what I ended up doing. So we called this organization in Columbia, Maryland. And at the time that I called them, there was a wait list. I was like, okay, just put him on the wait list. When it's our turn, we're taking him to you. And finally, it was our turn. So we went to the SLP, to the organization. They met with Marcus. They did a couple of testings and assessments. And I provided them the report that I got from Children's Hospital. And I let her know from the very beginning up front, I am not in support of this report. I do not believe it. I do not believe that my son is autistic. I think it's something else. They just don't know what it is. That's why I'm here. So after she did a couple of sessions with Marcus, she determined, she was like, yeah, he's not autistic, because I work with autistic children and he absolutely is not autistic. I said, okay, that's what I know. She said, no, he is 100% apraxia. I said, what is apraxia? I was like, I have no idea what apraxia. I was like, what is apraxia? So she kind of gave me the gist about it being a motor disorder, and kids having issues with sounds and pronunciation, articulation. So I looked it up, And I went to Google, I looked it up, I looked at the diet, I looked at the definition, and as I was reading the definition, it exactly described Marcus's communication and how he was communicating. It was spot on. I was like, okay, this is it. She was right. This is what it is. So that's when we got our official diagnosis for him in June of 2018. So from that time, um, it's just been a journey since, trying to find an SLP who specialized in apraxia, and the hunt is on for that. And yeah, it was just a lot, but yeah, we've been on this journey since June 2018.
With her first diagnosis at UVA, she also was diagnosed maybe a year and a half later with hyponasal speech with VIP. I can't say it the whole word with it too. So she also has her palate is very short in the back of her mouth. So it makes also her speech very hypernasal, some of her words. So with her apraxia, she also has this too. So we've had a palate surgery, injection surgery. So we go back in October to see if it has dissolved. And if it dissolved, they'll insert a permanent palate in the back of her mouth to help her with her hypernasal speech too. But with her apraxia has been with the school. She did early intervention pre-K through her IEP at the school system. So she started going to pre-K at the age of 3 with her IEP. Then we live in West Virginia, so I took her to Morgantown, and we went to the Disability of Excellence, and she got tested to bring back to her IEP, and the school board actually bought her a communication device. So she's had a communication device for 3 years. They bought the app and everything, and they actually bought her a brand new app or a brand new iPad this year. So she's able to use that in her classroom. We also have OT. She has started her OT program 2 years ago with her IEP through the school system. She continues with that. We do outside therapy twice a week. And once we were doing OT, but we had to take a break of doing so much therapy for her. So then we also, we were noticing her eyesight. She was cutting really close to her face, or she wasn't connecting her dots and stuff like that. So we took her to the pediatrician. She failed her eye test, and she's been wearing glasses for about a year now.
There have been a lot of bumps or challenges, in this journey. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've come across in our journey is one, finding an SLP that specializes in apraxia. Honestly, I can say in where I am, I haven't come across too many. We're blessed to have found initially the 2 SLPs that have worked with Marcus. They are amazing. I'm very grateful to them, because I feel like had it not been for them and their efforts with Marcus definitely would not be where he is today. Marcus is now saying sentence, like at least 3 to 5 word sentences now, and he's 6 years old. There was a time he would say maybe 1 word, or maybe 2, but to see where he started in 2018 to where he is now in 2021, it's amazing. So that's been a challenge, just finding a really good SLP that specializes in apraxia in your area, that knows how to address those challenges. The second challenge that we've had on our journey is insurance. Insurance has been a challenge. What we have learned is, as we started or going through this journey, the insurance companies need to bill you or code you. I'm sorry, they need to code you with as a disability. It needs to be coded as a disability. I don't know how they do it, but when we submit our claims have to have a certain code, and the insurance company has to bill, I guess, him or my son as a person of disability. What was happening was a lot of our initial claims were getting denied, and then they would come back to us, and then as a result, we were indebted to the SLP because the SLP was not getting paid. So I know in some instances, depending on where you are, there may be some insurances that cover these services 100%. Ours does not. So we have a copay every time we go to session with our son, which is 3 days a week. We pay out-of-pocket expenses every time he goes 3 days a week times 4 weeks in a month. That adds up. That adds up. So, our battle has been with the insurance company, just ensuring that, he gets the coverage that is due to him. And, and if you're blessed enough to have an insurance, that will provide unlimited services, that's great. We had to fight for that, but that's what we have now for our son. We do have unlimited services. The only kind of headache is that we still have to go back to our insurance every 6 months to have that coverage reapproved. We have to, or reauthorized, I think that's the word. We have to go back every 6 months and have that coverage reauthorized every time. So that's a headache in itself. Other challenges that we've had along our way is just, the advice I would give to parents is that your child best, and when you suspect that something is wrong with them or there's a problem, and you take them to these professionals, these doctors, for an assessment, I guess, I don't know how to say this, but don't take the first diagnosis you get as the final diagnosis. If there's something in your gut that's telling you, hey, I'm not so sure, get a second opinion, get a third opinion, get as many opinions as you get. So definitely, as you go through your journey, you have to advocate. So that's one of the things, like I am like my number one son's advocate. Between my husband and I, we advocate for our son. Like if, someone tells us something, we're like, no, like I challenge a lot of things. And even with him in school, when they do his IEP and they're writing out on his progress and things like that, I want the progress that they report on him to be accurate and current.
My biggest thing has helped me never give up. Keep fighting, try to figure out what the best thing for your child and get the right help for your child. Your child the best out of everybody, even at school. Just, never give up. We constantly take her to, UVA or the pediatrician, or we reach out if I feel like she's not doing really well in school, I reach out to her OT or her reading specialist lady that she has this year in kindergarten and stuff like that. It's just staying, especially you can't go into the schools right now to have any meetings, so everything's virtual. So, just staying on top of everything, being involved. You have to have really big patience, or I stay organized. Like I have a book just for her stuff from UVA, and I have a book for her speech from birth to 3 all the way to now through school. And I keep everything. So if they like deny me of something at school, I have my information that she was fully diagnosed, or that she's been diagnosed from a development ped specialist, not just an LSP or anything like that. She's got, we've had a development peds because maybe we thought it was autism, but no, it's not autism, so we had her fully diagnosed.
So I definitely say, as you go through this journey, question everything. Always advocate for your children. Always be their voice until they can be their own voice. And don't allow anyone to label or stereotype your children. Ask as many questions as possible. Don't let whatever the initial diagnosis you receive be the final diagnosis. Ask questions, get second, third opinions if you're able to. I know that, not everyone is in the situation where they can go to multiple different doctors and get different assessments, but definitely trust your gut, especially as the parent of that child. Your child best, and always be that child's advocate and voice. Those are the biggest, I think, for us. Those have been the biggest takeaways in this journey. And even as our son progresses and makes his strides along the way each and every day, there's still there's still a lot to be learned from this journey. We're not at the end yet. He's 6. The prayer is that, hopefully, he'll graduate from Apraxia and move on and have a good life. And, he's able to communicate to the point that he's fully understood. But until then, we have to help him and support him along the way. And these are the things that we're doing for our son. And, if anyone came to me and asked me about Apraxia, those are the main things that I would advise to them as they go on this journey. It's a lot. And patience and understanding, empathy, compassion, all of that. You need to have all of that in this journey, because you will get frustrated. As the parent, guardian, the child, there's frustration. But that's what I would say about our journey. And it still continues. So.
The Proxy Walk really worked for us. Our Birth of 3 program actually got us in touch with the very first one we ever did. And we were like 3 weeks out. She told us about it about 3 weeks before the date. So after that, we are all games in, we stay on top of it every year as soon as they post something about it. I guess it's the easiest way to network is just social media, putting it out in your local newspaper. I'm going to write the newspaper this week about it to see if they'll interview Josie. I write it on, we live in, we have like a social media thing for the South Berkeley County where we live in. So we put stuff like that, or you can put stuff at the local gas stations, and it really helps bring awareness because a lot of people don't know about this. Even me working at Chick-fil-A, some people that I work with have never heard of this until they met me or Josie.
Say first and foremost that I am truly grateful for Apraxia Kids. It has been an amazing resource, not only for information, education, but also support. I remember I believe it was 2019 or it was 2019 when I went to my first national conference for Apraxia Kids. It was in Pittsburgh, PA, beautiful city. I'd never been there before. And I went because I just needed to learn so much about Apraxia. There was so much that I didn't know. I went on your website and I saw your brochures and the different resources that you have available, in talking to school about your children's diagnosis, helping teachers understand, sharing information with family and friends about what Apraxia is. I mean, just an absolute gem of information. And then the awareness that you all bring to Apraxia. We have been an active participant in the Walk for Apraxia. We did our first Walk for Apraxia in 2019. We did our second one in 2020, and we're in the midst of our third one now in 2021. And in the first 2 walks in 2019 and 2010, each year we were able to raise over $1,000 for Marcus's team. And I'm grateful for the support that I get from family and friends when it comes to Marcus, and just, their genuine interest in learning more about Apraxia and how they can support and what they can do, just participating in our walk. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we've had to do it virtually for the last 2 years. But even in doing that, we've still received a lot of support for his team, where he's been in the championship club for the last 2 years. So yay, Marcus. So that's awesome, just to be able to get the word out and generate that type of support. And just getting people to talk about Apraxia Kids, or Apraxia, I'm sorry. And Apraxia Kids, yeah, that's a good thing too, to talk about the organization as well. So between the conference and the Walk for Apraxia, we're very involved in that. I look forward to this year's conference. I'm excited about that. So again, just the speakers, the vendors that are available, just all the resources. And I think the most valuable thing for me with the conference was just talking to other families, and not just from my area, but just from different states. I've met people from New York, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Jersey area, and we're all talking about our journeys and how different they are. Those are the things that I found most valuable, and I continue to find value, through Apraxia Kids, the webinars, I mean, I could go on and on. The webinars, the staff, the staff is amazing. I'm fortunate enough to be a part of the newly founded diversity and inclusion committee for Apraxia Kids as a parent member. That's an initiative that we started last year in 2020, and it's been amazing. Because the whole goal of our committee is to get the word out about Apraxia Kids, and to get it out in communities that aren't aware of Apraxia Kids. So the minority communities, and just heighten the awareness. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to just promote awareness and education when it comes to Apraxia Kids. So Apraxia Kids, like I said, it has been an amazing resource and blessing to my son, to myself, my husband, to our family, because we're learning so much more about this journey than we ever knew, prior to getting a diagnosis from Marcus. So it's just been an amazing resource to go to time and time again. And I just love it. It's great. It's wonderful.